Somebody can love you completely and still make your pain worse the moment they open their mouth. That's one of the hardest truths about suffering that nobody prepares you for. The people showing up aren't the problem. Their presence is real, their concern is real, their desire to help is usually completely sincere. And still, what they say can land like another wound on top of the one you already had. Bad comfort doesn't require bad intentions. It just requires someone trying to explain your pain instead of sitting inside it with you. This episode is about a coping skill nobody talks about enough. Not how to handle your own pain, but how to handle the well-meaning people standing next to it, offering explanations you didn't ask for and don't need, learning to recognize false comfort, and having the strength to reject it even when it's wrapped in love is its own kind of survival skill. There's a man in scripture who lost everything in a single day. Children, wealth, health, all of it, and then spent the rest of his book defending his pain against the people who came to comfort him. This is Job, and this episode isn't really about his suffering. It's about what his friends did with it, and what it cost him to refuse their version of the story. The collapse. In a matter of verses, Job loses his oxen, his sheep, his camels, his servants, and then, in the cruelest single sentence, in the whole book, all 10 of his children, killed when a house collapsed on them during a family gathering. Then his own body turns on him, boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. There's no slow build here, no gradual loss he could brace for. Job's entire life is dismantled in the space of one chapter, with no explanation offered to him at any point. That detail matters for everything that follows. Job doesn't know what we, the readers, were told in the opening scenes about the conversation between God and the accuser. He's left to sit inside total devastation with absolutely no information about why. That gap between what the reader knows and what Job knows is the engine of the entire book. We get to watch Job's friends construct increasingly confident theories about a situation they understand even less than Job does. Every explanation they offer him is built on information they don't actually have, which is worth remembering. The next time you're tempted to hand someone a confident explanation for a situation you can't fully see either. 7 days of silence. 3 friends hear about everything that happened and travel from their own homes to sit with him. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. When they arrive and see him, they don't even recognize him at first. They weep, tear their clothes, and then do something remarkable. They sit with him on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights, and nobody says a single word, because they see that his suffering is very great. This is the best moment any of Job's friends ever have in the entire book. And it's the one thing none of them says out loud. 7 days of pure presence, no explanations offered, no theology attempted, just 3. Men willing to sit in the dirt next to devastation without trying to fix it or rush it. If the book had ended there, their names would be remembered very differently. The moment silence breaks, it's Job himself who finally speaks first. And what comes out is raw. He curses the day he was born, wishes he'd never taken a breath, asks why light was ever given to a man in his kind of misery. Chapter 3 is one of the darkest passages in the entire Bible, and it comes from the same man Scripture calls blameless and upright. That's worth pausing on before moving forward, because it confirms something this whole series keeps returning to. Honest despair spoken out loud isn't a contradiction of faithfulness. Job says the darkest thing in the whole book and is still the hero of it. What happens next in the story isn't a rebuke of that honesty. It's a study in what happens when the people around that honesty don't know what to do with it. Eliphaz's theology. Eliphaz speaks first and gently at the start. If one ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? But it doesn't take long before the real argument surfaces. Who that was innocent ever perished? Where were the upright cut off? The implication lands clearly enough without being stated outright. If Job is suffering this severely, Job must have done something to deserve it. This is the first bad comfort of the book, and it's the template for almost everything that follows, turning someone's unexplained pain into a puzzle with a tidy moral solution. It's not cruelty exactly. It's the very human need to believe suffering always makes sense, Because a world where bad things happen to genuinely innocent people is a much scarier world to live in than one where suffering is always earned. That need shows up in modern comfort just as often as it did in Eliphaz's tent. Everything happens for a reason. God is teaching you something. Maybe you needed this to grow. Sometimes those things are even true, but offered too quickly to someone still bleeding. They do exactly what Eliphaz did. They trade presence for explanation because explanation is more comfortable for the person giving it than sitting in the unresolved pain would be. The pattern repeats. Bildad follows with his own version of the same argument, less gentle than Eliphaz, suggesting Job's children died because of their own sin and urging Job to seek God so his latter days might be restored. Zophar goes further still, telling Job flatly that God is actually punishing him less than his guilt deserves. 3 different men, 3 different tones, and the exact same underlying message. Your suffering must be your fault, because the alternative is too uncomfortable to sit with. None of them are villains in the traditional sense. They're doing what people who love you often do when your pain doesn't have a clean explanation. They manufacture one, because a manufactured explanation feels more bearable than an honest, I don't know. Job's pushback. Job doesn't accept any of it. I have heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all, he says to them, directly, and it's one of the most quotable lines in the entire book for exactly this episode's subject. He refuses to confess to sins he didn't commit just to make his friend's theology work. This is the coping skill this whole episode is really about. The strength to reject an explanation for your pain, even a well-meaning one, when you know in your gut that it isn't true. That takes more resolve than it sounds like it should. It's often easier to accept the wrong explanation than to keep insisting, alone against 3 confident voices, that you genuinely don't know why this happened to you. Job does something specific and worth naming here. He doesn't ask his friends to stop caring, and he doesn't ask them to leave. He asks them to stop explaining what they don't actually know. That's a distinction worth carrying into your own relationships. Rejecting bad comfort doesn't have to mean rejecting the person offering it. It can simply mean telling the truth about what their explanation is costing you to hear. God's answer isn't the explanation either. When God finally speaks out of the whirlwind in chapter 38, he doesn't give Job the explanation his friends were so sure they already had. He asks Job question after question about creation, the foundations of the earth, the movement of the stars, a display of scale and mystery, not a tidy answer to why did this happen to me. Even God doesn't resolve Job's suffering with an explanation. He resolves it with presence. That's a striking contrast to everything Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar offered. They gave Job theology. God gave Job himself, showing up, speaking directly, without ever actually answering the question that had consumed the whole book. And somehow, that's what finally settles. Something in Job that 4 chapters of friendly explanations couldn't. There's a lesson in that ordering for anyone trying to comfort someone else well. Job's friends thought the missing ingredient was the right answer. It turned out the missing ingredient was the right presence, someone willing to show up in the actual scale and mystery of the situation instead of shrinking it down into something small enough to explain away over tea. The rebuke. At the very end of the book, God turns to Eliphaz and says something that should reframe everything that came before it. My anger burns against you and against your 2 friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Read that carefully. The friends who tried to defend God's justice with tidy theology are the ones God rebukes. The man who cursed the day of his birth and refused to accept a false explanation for his suffering is the one God calls right. That's not a small detail to include at the end of a 42-chapter book. It's the thesis statement, delivered directly from God's own mouth. Honest wrestling with unexplained pain was always closer to the truth than confident, comfortable explanations for it. It's worth noticing what God asks the friends to do next. 2 is offer a sacrifice and have Job pray for them. Even in the rebuke, restoration is the goal, not humiliation. But the correction itself stands unmistakably. and it's aimed at exactly the pattern this episode has been naming. Mistaking a confident explanation for genuine comfort and mistaking honest wrestling for a lack of faith. If you've ever been given an explanation for your pain that felt more like a theory than the truth, a reason someone needed you to accept more than one you actually believed, you're allowed to do what Job did. You're allowed to say, "I don't know why this happened," and mean it, without that honesty making you less faithful. This is episode 6 of the Coping series. Subscribe so you catch the finale. And if you've ever had to reject well-meaning advice that didn't actually fit your pain, drop the word comforters in the comments. Job's friends came with answers. God came with presence. If the people around your pain right now are handing you tidy explanations that don't actually fit, you have permission to set them down, the same way Job did and the same way God ultimately said he was right to. Never forget, you're stronger than you think.